Unexpected message from McEnroe, former world number 1, about Alcaraz and Sinner. John McEnroe is part of the exclusive club of ATP world number 1s. He spent 170 weeks at the top of men's tennis and finished 4 seasons as world number 1. And even decades after retiring, he says he is still learning things about this sport. In a conversation with ATP media during the ATP 500 in Dallas, he explained what he respects most about players like Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer and, more recently, Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. They keep pushing. Maybe I learned the lesson a bit late, but looking back I think I should have pushed even harder instead of waiting to see what would happen, he admitted. In the end, all of this leaves you with life lessons that, over time, help you become a better person. The legendary left-hander first reached number 1 in the PIF ATP rankings in March 1980. The first time I appeared as number 1 on the computer was different from when I truly felt like I was number 1, and there was no doubt about it, he recalled. It took about a year and a half, from Memphis in February 1980 to September 1981 at the US Open, when I replaced Bjorn at the top. When he reached the summit, his great rival, Bjorn Borg, was still in his prime. However, 1981 would be the Swede's last full season. It coincided, unfortunately, with my biggest rival's decision to stop playing. It was tough, he confessed. For a while I felt like I had gotten into something that was bigger than me. It took me time to process it. And when I finally understood it, I was already finishing as number 1 for the 3rd or 4th year. After reaching that level I thought, now I've really proven it. His last spell as world number 1 ended in September 1985. More than 4 decades later, he still holds the 7th best record for weeks at the top. I valued it at the time, but I also valued being number 2. I talked a lot about this with Bjorn, he said. He used to tell me, if you're not number 1, what difference does it make if you're number 2 or number 100? And I would answer, well, being number 2 is much better than being number 100. For McEnroe, pride does not depend only on ranking. There are a lot of people trying to do their thing. If you gave everything and you were number 5 in the world or number 50, whatever, you should feel proud. No one can take away what he achieved in tennis, and that explains why fans still come to see him. With the passing of time, he sees it even more clearly, being able to say that for 3 or 4 years I was the best in the world, and in others I was one of the top 2 or 3, you enjoy it much more as you get older. ATP tournaments are competing with each other to confirm the participation of the 2 best tennis players on the planet, Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. Their presence is a major attraction for tennis fans, but also for sponsors. For that reason, countries and federations with more resources, money, pull out the checkbook to ensure that the Spaniard and the Italian will compete in the tournament they organize. That is exactly what has happened in Doha. As reported by La Gazzetta dello Sport, the ATP 500 in Doha, Qatar, has paid no less than $1.2 million to each of them, €1.01 million, just for participating in the tournament. An astonishing figure considering that this amount practically triples what the tournament champion will earn, $529,945. Although it is not known for sure whether both of them have gone to Doha mainly for the financial reward, what is clear is that the 2 best players in the world will compete again for a title after the Mercian won the Australian Open 2 weeks ago. They could only meet in a hypothetical semi-final, and since the Australian major Carlos has lost 500 points for not playing the Rotterdam tournament, where he was defending last year's title. The difference between Carlos and Jannik is 2,850 points, and Doha awards 500 points to the champion. The good news for the player from El Palmar is that he is only defending quarterfinal points, where he fell last year to the Czech Lehecka. Anything beyond that round will mean adding points for Alcaraz, who will make his debut this Tuesday, February 17, against Frenchman rinderknech, while Jannik will do so today, Monday, against Czech player McEnroe. Stunning message from Alcaraz after his first match in Doha. The Mercian enjoyed the match despite its toughness and already has his ticket to the round of 16. Carlos Alcaraz has started 2026 unstoppable. After winning the Australian Open, the Mercian has not lost a single match this year. Although Doha will not be an easy path, as could be seen today with a tough Arthur Rinderknech who caused Carlitos more than one headache. He keeps winning, and the next objective arrives tomorrow against a player he has never faced before, Valentin Royer. Alcaraz knew Rinderknech would be hard to beat. It was a complicated match, the first match always is. I know Arthur well, he is a player who is always dangerous, especially if you meet him in the early rounds, he's one of those opponents you'd rather avoid, he commented in the post-match interview after the intense encounter that eventually ended 6-4 and 7-6. I'm happy with the level I showed on court, happy to have overcome this first barrier, To have managed the difficult moments that came up during the match well, that's when I was at my calmest and most positive. I think I produced a good level of tennis. I'm happy with the victory and I hope to keep this streak going, said a delighted Carlos Alcaraz after a thrilling final point that left the center court at the Khalifa International Complex in awe. Royer's profile, Carlitos' next rival. Born in 2001, the player's late breakthrough has been impressive. He has adopted a highly offensive style of play, characterized by risking everything in search of victory. Unlike his compatriot Rinderknech, who is more focused on coming to the net, Valentin prefers to dominate rallies from the baseline. His main weapon is a devastating inside-out forehand. Royer qualified for the round of 16 after convincingly defeating his compatriot Pierre-Hugues Humbert 6-0, 6-3. He currently occupies position 60 in the ATP rankings, a number that does not do justice to the level of play he has been showing recently. Carlos Alcaraz will face this other Frenchman after reaching 150 hard-court victories, proving that the Mercian is a true all-surface player, despite the fact that at the beginning of his career some experts pointed out that he performed better on clay than on other surfaces. On clay, Carlitos has 103 wins, while on grass he has 35. Alcaraz imposes his law in Doha against a very competitive Rinderknech. The Frenchman is going through one of the best moments of his career and proved it by putting Carlitos under pressure more than once in this first round of the ATP 500 in Doha. Carlos Alcaraz is already in the second round. The Mercian sealed his passage at the ATP 500 in Doha after defeating a combative Arthur Rinderknech 6-4, 7-6 in a match that had everything: moments of maximum tension, some spectacular shots, and a nail-biting finish. In just over an hour and a half, Carlitos showed that he always has an ace up his sleeve. First set for Alcaraz without too many complications. The first set began with Alcaraz at full speed. After securing an early break, the Spaniard focused on consolidating his advantage with a serve that worked with the precision of a Swiss watch. At 4-2 in his favor, he produced one of those pieces of magic that makes the crowd rise to its feet, a delicate drop shot that left the Frenchman rooted to the spot. Rinderknech, who at times seemed to unravel by sending returns into the net, did not give up and forced Carlos to work hard. Luckily, that familiar vamos rang out like music to our ears as Alcaraz closed the first set 6-4 after 52 minutes of battle. Rinderknech did not want to hand the set to Carlitos. The second set had a completely different script. Rinderknech relied on his best weapon, the serve, and began hammering down aces. In fact, he reached 5, combining them with approaches to the net. The exchange of blows was constant, with the Frenchman opening 1-0 to love and Alcaraz responding with serves over 210 km/h. No one wanted to give in. At 3-3, we witnessed spectacular points where the net cord favored the Frenchman, but Carlos responded with winning down the line forehands that took the breath away. The tension peaked at 5-6. Alcaraz was serving to stay in the set and found himself in danger at 30-40. He saved the first set point with a bold serve and, after another scare from the Frenchman, forced his rival's error to send the outcome to a tie-break. A thrilling sudden death. In the tie-break, Carlitos' nerves of steel made the difference. Rinderknech attacked with a smash, but an unforced error from the Frenchman on an inside-out forehand gave the Mercian breathing room. Trailing 5-4, Alcaraz raised his level, secured the mini-break and earned 2 match points. Although the Frenchman saved the first with a brilliant return, Alcaraz did not forgive on the second with an unstoppable forehand that sent him into the second round of the ATP 500 in Doha. The ATP in Doha delivers its first verdict between Alcaraz and Sinner with the official round of 16 schedule. A pleasant problem for the ATP 500 in Doha, where for the first time Carlos Alcaraz, who reached the quarterfinals in the previous edition, and Jannik Sinner coincide in the draw. The Qatar tournament must handle the scheduling challenges generated by a different program than usual, since the final is played on Saturday and there are only 6 days of main draw, from the round of 32 to the closing match. This means that Alcaraz and Sinner will coincide in the order of play every day from the round of 16 onward. The Italian opened on Monday, the Spaniard began on Tuesday. That was the only respite. From now on, the organization will have to manage their schedules under the premise that they could meet on the final day. There must be a balance in match times. The ATP 500 in Doha delivered its first verdict between them, relying on logic. Sinner had more rest, so he will open the evening session on Wednesday. His round of 16 match will be against Australian Alexei Popyrin. It will be at 7:30 p.m. in Doha, 5:30 p.m. Spanish Peninsular Time. After that, Alcaraz, around 7 to 7:30 p.m. Spanish Time, will face Frenchman Valentin Royer in a first-ever meeting on tour. The number 1 against the number 60. The tournament matches are broadcast on television by Movistar Plus. You can also follow Alcaraz's matches through the live coverage on the Mundo Deportivo website.